皆さんこんにちは、メイです。私の日本語クラスルームへようこそ。In this video, I'm going to explain how to use potential expressions in Japanese. First off, do you know what potential expressions are? For example, I can speak Japanese. I can speak Japanese. I am able to come to the office tomorrow. I am able to come to the office tomorrow.These are called potential expressions. You know, it says pretty much something you can do and something you cannot do. But can you say these in Japanese? There are two different ways to express potentials in Japanese. First, you can express potential by changing the form of verb into its potential form. For example, 私は日本語が話せます。私は日本語が話せます。明日オフィスに来られます。明日オフィスに来られます。話せます is the potential form of 話す or 来られます is the potential form of 来る。Okay, now let's practice conjugating verbs into their potential forms. Like other verb conjugation, the rules are different depending on the type of verbs. The first group is often called class 1 verbs or verbs. These verbs are the ones where their dictionary forms end with u. For example, 書く、話す、読む、使う。To turn these verbs into potential form, just drop the final u and add る. Let's try. So for 書く, drop the final u and add る. 書ける. Next, 話す drop the final u and add る 話せる Now, what about 読む読める The last one, 使う使える Alright? Next, for class 2 verbs or る verbs,Their dictionary forms end with either る or いる. For example, 食べる、見る、着る、起きる. For these verbs, replace the final る with られる. Let's try. 食べるReplace the final る with られる right? 食べられる見る Replace the final る with られる見られる What about 着る着られる Okay? The last one 起きる起きられるFinally, there are irregular verbs which are 来る and する. These two you just need to memorize. 来る is going to be 来られる来られるする is going to be できるできる Okay?Now, if you look at the ending of the potential form verbs, it all ends with る, right? So say you want to make it to a negative sentence or past tense. These verbs conjugate like class 2 verbs or る verbs. Okay, let's see. First, かけるかけないかけたかけます Next 食べられる食べられない食べられた食べられますできるできないできたできます The last one 来られる来られない来られた来られます Alright, now let's look at some examples 日本語の本が読めます日本語の本が読めます私の子供はまだ箸が使えない私の子供はまだ箸が使えない今日は午前5時に起きられた今日は午前5時に起きられた寿司が食べられますか寿司が食べられますか
As you may have noticed, in these kind of sentences, direct objects are paired with the particle が but they can also be paired with the particle を日本語の本が読めます or 日本語の本を読めます私の子供はまだ箸が使えない私の子供はまだ箸を使えない寿司が食べられますか寿司を食べられますか
Even though these two sentences mean the same things and both are grammatically correct, ga is more commonly used than o for these expressions. So I would say it is safer to go with ga. Okay, now let's practice a little. What if someone asks you, 何々さんは泳げますか何々さんは泳げますか If the answer is yes, what do you say? はい、泳げます。はい、泳げます。If the answer is no, what do you say? いいえ、泳げません。いいえ、泳げません。What if someone asks you, 何々さんは漢字が書けますか漢字が書けますか Yes? はい、書けます。What about yes, a little bit? はい、少し書けます。はい、少し書けます。What if the answer is no? いいえ、書けません。いいえ、書けません。Now, how do you want to ask if he or she can speak English? 何々さんは英語が話せますか何々さんは英語が話せますかはい、話せます。はい、少し話せます。いいえ、話せません。Next, if you want to ask if someone can play the guitar, how do you ask? 何々さんはギターが弾けますか何々さんはギターが弾けますか Yes? はい、弾けます。No? いいえ、弾けません。Now, if you want to know a little bit more about the grammar of potential form verbs, here's a little bit of explanation. If you're not interested, you can skip. So there are actually types of verbs you can conjugate into their potential forms, and there are also the type of verbs that you can't. The verbs you can change to their potential forms are called volitional verbs, and the others are called non-volitional verbs. Volitional verbs are, for example, 食べる、行く、読む, just like we learned earlier. These are type of actions that's something you can control. If you're willing to do it, you can do it, and if you want to stop doing it, you can stop doing it. On the other hand, 水が流れる、風が吹く、花が咲く. So these are some example of non-volitional verbs. These explain phenomena that naturally happen, right? And these are not something you can control. So they are called non-volitional verbs. You cannot change their forms into their potential forms because they are not in anyone's control. So like I said, there are two different ways to express potentials. So the second one is by using the expression ことができる. Have you ever heard of that? For example, 日本語を話すことができます。日本語を話すことができます。明日オフィスに来ることができます。明日オフィスに来ることができます。So to make these sentences, you just need to combine the dictionary form verbs and ことができる. For example, 泳ぐ。泳ぐことができる。私は10キロ泳ぐことができます。来る。来ることができます。私は明日午前6時に来ることができます。話す。話すことができます。田中さんは中国語を話すことができます。Okay, so now you may be wondering, so what's the difference between the verbs into their potential forms and ことができる? They are grammatically interchangeable. So you can say either 私は日本語が話せます。私は日本語を話すことができる. And they mean the same thing. But the impression that you will give to the listener will be a little different. ことができる sounds more formal and somewhat stiff compared to the verbs in their potential forms. So ことができる is more suitable for written language or in a business setting, while the potential form of verbs are naturally used in spoken language. いいですか? わかりましたか? If you have any questions, please ask me in the comment section, and I will see you in my next video. じゃあまた